All right, welcome. Like we said last week, when we came back from winter break, spring break, was that spring break or winter break? It felt like winter break. So you should be focused on working on the final project. So let's just go over what the various pieces of it are expected of you. Some of the pieces we've already worked on throughout the semester, and a lot of it will be looked at and just putting it together to build something that is yours. Most of you have come to me to talk about your ideas for the project. There are some of you that haven't still come to me. You should come and talk about your ideas. Some of you had very lofty and very ambitious ideas, and I've asked you to scale it down. Some of you thought were a little bit too simple, and I've asked you to make it a little more sophisticated. So you should definitely come talk to me before you start working on it. So I'm going to jot down a couple of things here on what might be expected to build for the project. Instead of writing on the surface, so it's recorded for everyone. All right, let's see. All right, so your project should be able to manage multiple users. So you have various users that are going to access a home page. And most of your site should be freely available without needing to log in. Only when you explicitly have to know who the person is, then you would ask them who they are. Okay, so they might visit the home page, perhaps from the home page to log in. Maybe a link to a profile, perhaps. Maybe a link to register. Have search here, right? And the search should be freely available. Doesn't matter if I log in. If I go to a search, I might go to a search page, and in that search page, I might have some kind of search input field or drop downs or whatever I want to search for. And once I search, I would get several search results. Okay. Now that search results, presumably they can either go against a local database. So this might be searching from a local database, or better yet, something that we looked at early on in the class. It might go out to the cloud. Okay, IMDb or one of these web APIs that we looked at. I think we looked at one of the IMDb URLs, web APIs early on in the class. I don't know if you remember, of a movie. Remember that? And it would come back with results. Remember that? Yep. So those are the search results I'm talking about. Then if you click on any one of these things, whatever they are, you would go to a separate page, which would be the details page. So in the search results, you're showing a summary of the search results, maybe a thumbnail, maybe a title, right? Something very a summary of the search results. Whereas when you click on that and go to a details page, you would see a full-blown details page, right? Maybe a couple more images. If it's a movie, maybe you have, I don't know, the director. Maybe you have the list of actors or something like that, right? So here's a details page, and you have lots of details here. Okay, notice that up to this point, I have not had to log in, right? This is freely available to anybody without logging in. Everybody okay? All right. If I click on the profiles page and I want to go to a profile, if I presumably click on the profile, it's my profile. Okay. So if it is my profile, then this should go through a login page. If I'm not logged in, I'll ask you to log in, and we saw how to do that last week, right? It'll ask you, are you already authenticated? If you are, it'll let you into your profile page. I know who you are. I'll let you the profile page. Not necessarily do I need to protect all the profile pages. If I'm going to somebody else's profile page, then it might be okay, right? Maybe I want to see some of the details about that person's profile, whatever they made public. I could see their profile. For instance, if this is a movie or a recipe or a sports team or whatever it is, you might have comments, right? Several comments by various users, right? Several users might have commented or reviewed the sports team, or they might have reviewed a recipe, or they might have reviewed a restaurant or hotel, a movie, whatever it is that you choose, right? Now, if I click on perhaps of whoever created that review, that should allow me to go to their profile. So this is a profile page. That should allow me to go to their profile without having to log in, right? I'm just perusing, and I should see anything that is considered to be public for that profile. I should be able to see it, right? I definitely should not be able to see none of his private information, right? But anything public, maybe his favorite movies or his favorite songs or favorite restaurants, whatever you decide that is public, okay, should be available. What else? But if I try to post my own comment or my own review about that thing that I'm looking at, this is all in the details page. If I try to post, well, I don't know who you are, right? So I can't post. I need to be able to associate this post with somebody who posted it, right? So if I try to post and I'm not logged in, then it should kick me off to a login page, right? That would force me to log in, and then, go back to the interface that will allow me to post my review or my whatever. Make sense, right? Or if this is if I want to favorite. If I want to favorite or bookmark somehow this movie or this song or this recipe or whatever, right? If I want to bookmark it, I have to know who you are, right? If I don't know who you are, then again, it should kick me off to a login page, right? And then let me bookmark it. Make sense? So if ever I need to remember anything about the person who's looking at this, right? I need to know who you are. Make sense? If you're just looking around and just on the site, then there's no need to know who you are. You are because you're trying to look at private information, or I need to associate you to some piece of information. Then I need to log you in. Everybody okay? All right. All right. Okay, so there's not one profile, there's many profiles, right? There's many different users. Yes, many different users. Each user has their own profile. So I have my profile, and everybody has their own profile. We looked at this last week, right? If you logged in as Alice, an admin user, you were able to see certain things. If you logged in as someone else, as Bob, which was a student, you saw something else, right? Each one has their own profile. We saw that last week. So if I do log in, if I do click on login, obviously this will take me to a login page, and this maybe will kick me off to the profile, and then I can see my information about about things that I've done so far, things that I've done. So for instance, if I've bookmarked something, or maybe I've commented on something, or I've made a review on something, right? This would be listed here. Things that I like, right, would be listed here, or comments that I've made, comments, right, would be listed here. I think this would be links, if I details page again of whatever I liked, yes, or if I made a comment or review or whatever, this would kick me up again to the thing that I commented about. Make sense? Right? What else? Now, when I do link on something, I need to store information about the thing that I like. Okay, for instance, I need to know that it's this movie that you like, or it's this or it's this song that you like, or this sports team that you like. I need to store it somewhere. Okay. We did look at examples of how to do this early on. We were started looking at Angular, right? That we were able to search a movie, like it, right? And we looked at it was storing it where? It was storing it in the local storage. Remember that? We're storing it in local storage. In this case, it would need to store it in a database. Right? It would need to store it in a database. Okay. Instead of storing in local storage, right? So you would need to create some database. The database. The database might look something like this, with a table or a collection of users. Okay, and then some table or collection that represents whatever it is that you are searching or displaying. If it's a sports team, or if it's a movie or a recipe, or whatever it is that you're storing or searching, right? I'll call them domain objects. Okay, whatever domain you choose, you know, whether it's cooking or sports or movies or music, or whatever domain you choose, it'll have several objects of interest. Yes, if it's a movie application, then the object will be a movie, right? If it's a song, the object will be a song. Make sense? So I'll call it a domain object, whatever it is, right? I have a couple of these domain objects, right? If some user likes some domain object, there should be some table that shows that this user likes that domain object. Yes? That creates a relationship saying, hey, that user likes that domain object. Okay? This usually is supposed to be a one-to-many, meaning, sorry, that's one. One domain object is liked by many users, but one user might like many domain objects. Make sense? Right? And we'll look at this a little further as we go. CS4550 databases. Can I show a hand? Okay, most of you here. So yeah, so this should be somewhat familiar to you, right? This is a mapping table, right? That maps one record on one table with another record in another table. Make sense? Right? And presumably these are, you have primary keys in the users, and you have primary keys in the domain objects, and these you have foreign keys going to each one, right? A foreign key going to the user and a foreign key going to the domain object, saying that user likes that domain object. Make sense? Right? Yes?
I think you recorded the desk. It doesn't show the screen.
Okay. Just a second. Is it now recording? Okay. Anything else that you might want to create an association with? Perhaps, you know, not only can you like, so that's for liking. How about comments or reviews? Same thing, right? You would have some kind of, you might have different mapping tables that would allow you to capture these things, right? So you might have a comment saying that that user commented on that domain object, or this user maybe created a review. This user made a review on that domain object, right? So you have various mapping tables that create these relationships. Okay. The data model for the user is pretty much what we looked at last week, right? You might have a username, password, first name, last name, email, things like that, right? Things that are personal to that user. For the domain object data model, it depends, right? If it's a movie, you might have a title, right? You might have the rating, right? You might have, you know, the year that came out, maybe the director, maybe a plot information. Yes, you might have information about a movie or song, right? You might have the name of the song, the artist, how long it is, and whatnot. Okay? Make sense? Right, so the domain object depends. It depends on what you what you choose to for the domain object. Now, the thing is that most of the data, where is the most of the data? Well, actually, all the data. Where are you pulling it from? You're pulling it from here, right? From the cloud, right? It would make no sense for you to replicate information that is already in the cloud. Okay, most of it is out there. Why would I need to replicate it? Okay, so I would say that instead of creating a data model locally in your database that replicates data that is already accessible in the cloud, I would instead collect things that are the basic things, right? The very, very minimal thing that I would need. Let's see. I definitely need to know, if you remember when we were going out to these web APIs, right? When we were going out and we were looking for movies, we were looking for these things. If you remember, these movies, when they came back, they were in an array, right? An array of movies. Remember that? And each one of these objects in the array had an ID. Remember that? It was, I think it was called IMDb ID or something like that, right? So that ID is really the only thing we need to store in a local database, right? I need to say, such a user likes such, this particular movie, and that's the ID. That's the only thing I need, the ID. With that ID stored in my local database, I can always go back and, if I want to show the details, like if I want to go from here and navigate to the details, the only thing I need is that ID. With that ID, I can go back to my web API and re-render the details, right? That's all I really need, the ID. With that ID, I can always go back and fetch the information again. Okay, I don't need to replicate all the information that is already in the cloud. Okay, so the domain object. The domain object model might be as simple as, obviously it'll have the local ID, right? That's the local ID that MongoDB might create for you, right? But you might have here the remote ID, right? Maybe it's an IMDb ID, and this ID is the ID that you pull from the remote web API that you would store locally, right? So that you would say, this user likes that movie. That's the ID that you would store there, so that later on, if I want to navigate to that movie, I just click and I can then retrieve that ID and render the details page. Make sense? Now, this implementation has a problem in that. What about over here, right? When I render the likes or the comments, what am I going to put in the labels of those hyperlinks? What am I going to put there? Typically, these labels will be something like, A, right? And then the actual if it's a movie, what I would like to put here is the movie name, right? The name or title of that movie, right? If I'm using Angular. Well, where do I get that information? Notice that my model doesn't have information about that name, right? I kind of said that all you need is that ID. With that ID, I can go fetch the name of the movie, can I? Right? I could fetch them, but that would be very expensive. Imagine that if I have, if I like 100 movies, there would be 100 calls, right, to the web API to retrieve those names. Right? That's very, very chatty, right? So you would also store here, title or name or whatever, right? Things that even though I can always fetch it from the remote a web API, right? It would be very cumbersome or awkward to having to do all these queries just to fetch, this little information just to display a list, right? I don't want to have to download an entire object representing a movie if I just need the title, right? Or maybe if I just want, maybe my representation is these likes is a thumbnail, maybe a thumbnail and a title, thumbnail and a title. Maybe I just gonna put here, right? Maybe that should be my model, right? The IMDb, the URL, the ID for the remote movie, a replicated title, the name, and maybe a thumbnail, right? Just so I can represent this very quickly on my UI, right? Everything else, right? Actors, directors, rating, and the year that it was published or whatever, plot, all that information that I would need for a details page, that I'll fetch dynamically. That makes sense? Okay. So yeah. So I would say that in your local data model for the domain object, replicate the absolute minimum that you need to to display lists like this, things that you like, movies that you've commented on. Okay. Make sense? All right. We'll work on this. We'll keep working on this. Although the various pieces we've already covered. Okay. We did cover early on. We did cover hitting the IMDb database using jQuery, using plain Ajax, right? We did use Angular, right? $HTTP to go and retrieve data using JSON-P, right? Remember that? So we did do that, right? And in that case, we were storing it in local storage. But then we looked at how to store things in MongoDB. Yes, so you do know how to create URLs and post data to the database to Node.js Express to store this in the database, right? And also the example that I posted today about registering new users and things like that. You can use that same example of registering new users. That same example can be extended for storing domain objects. Yes, right. So that instead of creating new users, you can create new domain objects, right? That are things that can be pulled from a remote web API. Okay. So yeah, so you have a remote. Oops, sorry. You have a remote web API. You have a local database. Okay. So the pages would be what? You have 4 pages: home, search details. Search and search details could be 1 page. The details page and the profile page. Right. So basically 4 pages. Okay. And the login page could be part of the home. In the example that we saw last week, it was what? It was a separate page, right? But there's no reason why it couldn't be the same page. It couldn't be the home page, right? You could merge those 2 pages into one. There's no reason why this could be merged, right? You can have the search right on the home page, right? But some of you might prefer to have it separate, where in the home page, this is the project's homepage, not your homepage, right? This is a project's homepage. You might store things like that. Maybe list the latest movies or latest songs or latest whatever, right, in the homepage, and have a separate page for searching. So yeah, so 4 pages or four features, right? Home, searching, search details, profiles, and at least 4 tables, 3 or 4 tables, 1 for the user, 1 for the domain object, 1 for creating relationships between that user and that domain object. Okay, right, and storing locally the data model for that domain object, the remote key, right? Some very minimal information about that thing that I am bookmarking or linking or whatever, so that it can be rendered easily in my profile. That makes sense? Let's see what else. In these likes, not only should I be able to like something by maybe clicking on an asterisk, but I might want to unlike thing, right? So I should be able to. These should have all stars, so I can unlike something, right? Like delete, right? This from my like, or things that I've commented. I should be able to edit my comment or remove my comment. Make sense? Some of you might want to try the following as well, right? For instance, if I navigate to somebody's profile, and that other user, has done really cool comments about certain movies that I didn't know about, and I see, oh wow, that user really knows his domain, I might want to bookmark that user, right? I want to follow that user, right? So to do that, I would need an extra table that says that user is following that other user. So a user is following another user. Okay? And then here in your profile, you would list everybody who you're following, right? Maybe you could list also the people that are following you, right? It's a reverse relationship, right? So following you. So these are people that I'm following, and these are people that are following me, right? It can all be derived from this following table, right? Okay, that makes sense. All right, I'll post this as an assignment for the final project, and you can use that to eventually submit your implementation. Okay? Yes.
When is the project actually due?
The week before finals, so the last day of classes. Right. That final week of exams, that's when we're going to be grading all the projects. Yes. I will not presenting, but I will ask you to record using Google Hangout or broadcasting. Record a 10-15 minutes presentation of you going through all the features, making sure that we are not missing anything. Maybe somehow we don't we miss some feature. Make sure that you go and show the best of your project, right? Make sure we didn't miss anything. We give you credit for everything. Okay. Anything else? Yes. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to formally make this into an assignment, but informally, these 4 pages, 4 to 5 tables or collections, bookmarking, searching, web API, local database. Okay. All right.